Even from the front porch, it's clear that this home belongs to a gardener. But from the street, the addition over the garage could just be another home office or spare room. Instead, it's an indoor reflection of Connie Devlin's passion for exploring botanical challenge. Outdoors, in the garden that's evolved since she and Fred Jolibois made it their home, she experiments with the plants that changed her focus in college.
I was going to Michigan State, and I discovered the greenhouses there. And I started hanging out in the greenhouses instead of going to class, and I was constantly there.
Connie fell for the tropicals, a world apart from the northern plants of her childhood.
And from there on, I filled my little apartments up with plants, and wherever I lived, it was always just full of plants. Anybody who ever came around or lived with me had to deal with the plants.
But it was in Texas, in her first real yard, that she got to stretch her botanical wings.
When we first moved here, it was just dirt, of course, just a couple trees and a brand new neighborhood that was just bare.
In the backyard, a drainage easement presented a new design option. When the builder's thin layer of soil eroded, leaving the grass to struggle, Connie and Fred dug it all out to reveal rather than camouflage the stone bed. Now in a rain, they enjoy their fleeting stream rather than fight it. With the neighbors' discarded boulders and rocks, they built a bordering ledge to fill with plants against the fence. As the trees have grown and fences built, most of the backyard is in shade. Connie strategically parcels out her pockets of sunny real estate.
And in the summer, when everything that blooms sort of gets pushed out into the little sun band. We can only keep this much grass going because that's all the sun really that is available to us.
But the ever-growing shade turned into an incentive for more tropical exploration.
I love the elephant ears, all the big ears and all the big leaf plants. I love the textures and the stripes. This whole yard has sort of become tropical. It didn't used to. I've experimented with all the Texas natives, which don't do well back here because it's too shady. I've experimented with all sorts of things.
Color comes and goes throughout the seasons.
It's a plant lover's garden. It evolves and changes every year, and you never know what it's going to look like back here. Every year it's different.
The shade also prompted their hardscape design, a deck that Fred built.
Everything turned into mud because it was so shady, so we decided grass was sort of silly. Put a deck it in so we have an area to live on.
On the deck and in the yard, many of Connie's tropicals are in containers.
A lot of these plants may not make it if we have an extremely cold winter, but I realize that
for those she doesn't want to risk to cold-hardy experiment, they built a greenhouse that adjoins the house. When winter comes, it's packed full as Connie moves plants inside. They built a temporary greenhouse in the side yard for more room. Tender succulents get scooted under plastic. The semi-annual shuffle forces new design arrangements.
tropicals are probably my favorite. But it takes a lot of energy and time to recreate this garden every few years.
Still, Connie couldn't resist a new botanical challenge.
The orchids evolved out of just the passion for plants. I never really thought you could grow orchids in Austin. I thought it was too hot.
But at Zilker Garden Festival one year, she left with a cartload.
And they were everywhere. And of course, that led to, gotta have another place for them because they need humidity, they need lots of air, they need things you can't give in the house to really grow them. And I wanted to grow some of the big sun-loving ones. And the only sun is in the front yard. And my husband and I were talking about, where can we put a greenhouse? And we were talking to a contractor who's a friend of ours, and we were saying, what do you think about putting it on top of the garage, Norm? And he said, yeah, we can do that.
Even though the space isn't large, she crams in a lot, including misters, exhaust fans, and racks to accommodate each species' light requirements. Ever exploring, Connie didn't stop with the orchids that first grabbed her attention. With much trial and error, she started growing rainforest miniatures.
I started with the big fancy flowers that everybody loves, and it evolved down to the weird and the peculiar little creatures that are up there now. All the strange little plants that have tiny flowers, but they're just beautiful. It was just one more chapter of plants. There's other plants out there I've not tried yet, and I'm sure that they'll try those someday, because that's my passion, just growing things. I just have to be surrounded by plants, surrounded by the challenge of growing things and seeing if I can make them thrive.